Hi guys, welcome. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Jami Mays. I'm the Family Advisory Board President for the next school year, 26 to 27. This is the first time that we've held a candidate forum as the Family Advisory Board, so we're gonna get through it together. I've been a member of the Family Advisory Board since it was reignited after the pandemic. There's a lot of lore about the Family Advisory Board. Not a lot of it's written down. There's not a lot of good accounting for it. And so when Lily Brooks called me a few years ago and asked me to help her kind of recreate the Family Advisory Board, we kind of rebuilt it from scratch. Wanted to say thank you for coming. Thank you to the subcommittee that helped organize all of this and bring all those delicious treats out there. I had said, what if we have some cookies? And it looks like a wedding out there, so it's nice to see that. Thank you to Fletcher Johnson, who is our videographer at Bridge of the Night. If you need someone to take great video for you or edit video for you, this gentleman is your point of contact. Thanks to the library for hosting us here. It's nice to have a great big library that has a great big space like this. I'm really looking forward to having a library on the east side as well, so that we can do this all over Athens. And thank you to the candidates who are here tonight. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you so much.
Probably a lot of you know Jami. My name is Emily Malso. I am very new to the Family Advisory Board, so I think we sort of represent like the opposite ends of the spectrum. I just came on as the representative for Barnett Shoals Elementary this year. I have two sons. One of them is in kindergarten at Barnett Shoals, and one of them is about to start pre-K. So I'm coming here as sort of a new parent, and I'm going to be helping moderate the discussion.
We have a new website. It's fabccsd.org. On that website, we have a directory, which shows you a lot of vacancies because we're trying to fill all of our seats right now. So if you're interested in learning more about joining the Family Advisory Board, we'd love to talk to you about it. You can find anybody here that has one of these tags on that's standing up right now is someone that you could talk to about it. So if you're not aware, the Family Advisory Board is a little different than PTOs or LSGTs. Those focus on individual schools and the needs of individual schools and individual student bodies. As the Family Advisory Board, we pull back and we bring those individual issues together to kind of tease out systemic problems that can be addressed at the district level to make schools better for everyone in the whole district. So it's a little bit different. I know the previous iteration of the Family Advisory Board was called the Parent Advisory Board, and one of the channels to bring in membership was the PTO. But if the school doesn't have a functioning PTO, they just didn't have a voice. And so we have kind of reworked it to make it a little bit more broad and open. So you don't have to be a parent, you could be a family member, you could be a community member. We just want someone that's really dedicated to an individual school to run that place. So this is tonight's format. We're going to do introductions of the candidates. We're going to read through, we've got 5 submitted questions that we've selected tonight. We're going to play a little fun game called Who Has Authority? And then we're going to do some questions from the audience. Okay?
And there's cards at the back, so you can ask questions at the mic. If you want to do it that way. There's also some note cards at the back if you'd rather write down your question. Right when we get to number 4, I'm going to run back there and grab all the questions that have been submitted, and then Jami and I can ask those questions for you if you'd rather not do it on the mic.
Yeah, or feel free to give it to Jeremy back there in that corner or to Caroline over there in that corner. So we're going to do 2 minutes for each candidate. Apologies to Irami, I did not include you on this. That was just an oversight on my part, but you're 8. Okay, 8, okay. So we'll start with District 3 with Carl Blunt.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for hosting tonight's debate. My name is Carl Blunt, and I am running for Board of Education in District 3, and one of the principal reasons that I am running is actually in this room. It's my oldest son, Ashton. He is a sophomore at Clarke Central. I also have a freshman at Clarke Central. Through the eyes of my two children, I have seen many great things with Athens-Clarke County School District. They have given a lot to my children, they've given a lot to my family. Athens-Clarke County in general has done a lot for me. I'm a small business owner. I have an insurance agency that I've had for 20 plus years here in town, and I am running for the school board because I'm a firm believer in public education and its importance in a community. Without a functioning school system, it's hard to have a community that is growing and thriving. We have a wonderful school system here in Athens. There are some things that obviously we would like to do better. It's like having any organization, especially one of this size, but we have a lot of good things going on here right now. There's just a few things that I would like to see addressed to take us to that next plateau and give all children the ability to thrive, grow, and be the best they can be in life.
Thank you. So then we'll go to Mr. Reginald Willis.
Good evening. I am Reginald Willis. I am not new to Clarke County as I am a 1984 graduate of Cedar Shoals High School, and I am a 30-year veteran of Clarke County School District. I worked for 30 years at Barnett Shoals Elementary School. I just retired in December of 2024. I am currently a substitute teacher in Clarke County, and I co-direct the after-school program at Barnett Shoals Elementary School. And I started about 10 years ago a program entitled Boys to Men, where I work with 3rd through 5th grade boys in the afternoons with our core principles of respect, responsibility, and accountability. So I'm not new to Clarke County. I retired, but I continue the work. I think as a board member, I can be effective because, one, I plan to bring common sense. Sometimes we kind of get caught up in a lot of other stuff and just overlook the simple things. And I also plan to bring my experience of being in the school system, walking the halls of the school, knowing the children, knowing the staff, and working with parents, and as a board member, working closely with our administrators to make our schools the best they can be for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have, I'm Shirley.
Can you hear me? It works. Hi, everybody. My name is Adam Shirley, and I am a middle school teacher, and I am running for school board for District 7. There are two main reasons that I'm running. One, I have a deep passion for helping young people learn. I've been teaching for 18 years in various capacities. 14 of those have been middle school, mostly 8th grade science. That's introductory chemistry and physics. We light things on fire and blow stuff up for science. And I love the look on a kid's face when they get it, and when the connection gets made. And I love being a part of the team that makes that possible. I don't dare take credit like it's all me. It's not all me. It's everybody in the building, everybody in the district, everybody in the community that makes it possible. And so that appreciation, that motivation was the first thing that made me want to run for this. The second other motivation was I understand I have the patience and the skill set to be part of a board with a charge of this magnitude, right? 13,000 students that we have to do right by. And I worked for 5 years on the Board of Elections downtown, and I learned the hard way many times that the wheels of government have to move slowly sometimes, and it's infuriating and boring at the same time. And so many friends and family that I've spoken to, some of whom are sitting here now, their eyes kind of glaze over when I mentioned the ins and outs of Board of Elections things. And it's just, I learned that it needs to move slowly because there's so much riding on getting it right. And in the same way, with so many students who need us to do right by them, we don't get a second chance with their education. And so we must, at times, move slowly and deliberate and be patient. I'm not running for superintendent, I'm running for school board. There's 9 of us for a reason, to listen to each other, build consensus, and make sure that when we do move that huge ship in a new direction, everyone is on board and we all get where we need to be. So that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Fletcher. Oh, sorry, Lily, sorry. Lily Brooks.
Hello, I'm Lily Brooks, and I want to start off by saying thank you to Jamie and Emily and Jeremy and all the Caroline and my fab crew that I have now moved on from. I was the president for 2 years, like Jamie said, and I was honored and privileged to be a part of that group as we brought it back to life. So thank y'all so much for doing this tonight. Let me just go down the list. I am a former teacher, I am a passionate parent, and I am a committed community member. And those three things together, teaching in many different variety of classrooms, children with autism, Montessori classrooms, the pre-K at Barrow here in CCSD. I taught for a few years before I moved on, and then being a passionate parent, I have been a part of every PTO and PTA of the schools that I've encountered. My kids have gone to schools all across the county, and I have done everything from working spring flings and fall festivals and literally running 5Ks. I mean, putting on a 5K, I didn't actually run it. And those sorts of things. And currently the president of the booster club for the track and field team at Clark Central. And those are my parent things. And then as a community member, I have been on the Foundation for Excellence Board of Trustees for 4 years, which I rolled off about a year ago. And I'm currently, actually today was my last day as a CCSD representative to the entire Georgia Department of Education Parent Advisory Council. And it was a huge honor to also participate in that, as I got to meet parents from across the state and listen to all of the departments across the Department of Education and all the great things that they're doing for our kids and our students and our teachers and those sorts of things. So, take minutes, Lily. Yeah, take all that together, that's what made me run.
Thank you. Now Heather Fletcher.
Hello, everyone. My name is Heather Fletcher, and I'm running for the District 5 school board seat. I moved to Athens in 2002 to go to college, and then I never left. I'm one of those. I've actually lived here longer than where I'm from, in Albany, Georgia. But I'm a former Cedar Shoals High School teacher. I currently own and operate an independent real estate brokerage and a nonprofit dance school, Team Athens. And I just started back in the classroom again, this time part-time faculty at UGA teaching Spanish. I just think that education is the most important and the most invaluable thing that we can give to a child, that sets them up for learning not just what they need to know to get around in the world, but also learning who they are, which will, set them up for success in the future. My reason for running was very simple. I wanted to make sure that whoever represented my district cared about the students and their outcomes. After I left Cedar, I joined their local school governance team, and I served there for 2 terms. And my friend Trina Watson and I set up a Career Ready program, which is still active. They just started doing some career mentoring with students this year, and the whole goal of that was to funnel into work-based learning and bolster that program, because while I'm sitting here with a master's degree, I'm also working in a profession that I could have done without the master's degree, right? So we want to make sure that students are doing what's best for them in their future and not just feeling compelled to go to a university just because that's where everyone should go. We're forgetting about our trade skills and these high-skilled professions that are in dire need here. And so I do want to see more of a balance. I'm not saying we shouldn't push university, but that shouldn't be the only thing that we push. So I'm here to serve.
Thank you. Mr. Fred Smith.
Thank you very much. I'm Fred Smith. I've been in Athens since 1968. I'm a proud graduate of Clark Central. In fact, the first class at Clark Central, 1971. And I want to start out by saying that Athens is, in a lot of ways, a very great community. There's a lot of wonderful people, a lot of great resources here. And I know that because I spent most of my adult life involved in community, with youth activities, etc. I was part of the group that started the Athens tutorial program in 1980, and I'm still involved in that to some extent. In 1989, we started a program with some parents in Athens called the Creative Vision Foundation, which was a youth enrichment program. That program lasted for almost 14 years with volunteers, where we provided youth enrichment on Saturdays and sometimes in the summer. And that was a very successful program where the kids got exposed to banking, public speaking, small business, etc. And now a lot of those youngsters have grown up, and they come back and they tell us how important that was to them. So again, I'm been very involved in the community. I know the community, and so the Creative Vision Foundation is one of those things. Also, I'm big on collaboration. I can work with people who are different from me, that may not look like me, if we got common interests. And so I've done that in a lot of cases. We started the Inner East Athens tennis program for youth tennis
Thank you,
program.
sir, that's 2 minutes, I'm sorry.
More later. To be continued.
That's perfect.
Thank you for your time. I want to start off by thanking the facilitators of this. This is the exact quality of discourse that we need in order to improve our schools. Unlike, I think, some of the people on the stage, I actually am not satisfied with the quality of education in our schools. I have 3 kids, 2 and a half. I just pulled my oldest out. I want to mightily keep them in the Clarke County schools, except I am not satisfied with the quality of content that is delivered onto my children. And so I took my oldest out of Hillsman, and now I homeschool, and my younger 2 are currently Barnett Shoals. But my younger 2 are very good students, and unfortunately I think that's in spite of going to Barnett Shoals and not because of it. And all of these problems are fixable, I believe, if we take public schools seriously as community projects and get parents in the schools working alongside teachers and administrators and delivering content. Because a public school is not just a school that takes everybody, it's a school that is a community project. And the moment we've become an administrative project rather than a community project is when we've lost our way. And that doesn't mean that I agree with all the parents, but it does mean that if I'm elected for, or appointed then elected for the school board seat, my first duty is going to be maximally interpreting the charter that will empower LSGTs to make the schools as they see fit.
Thank you.
He didn't get introduced.
You're right. Irami Osei-Frimpong, he's interested in running for Nicole Hull's seat that she's vacating at the end of this school year. There'll be a special election in November. Thank you. All right, Mark.
I didn't know if you wanted to introduce me or not.
This is Mark Evans, who's next.
I didn't know.
It's you.
I don't know how I'm supposed to follow that, but that's okay. I'm Mark Evans, I represent District 9. I am the Vice President of the school board. Dr. Anderson is the President of the school board. I share some of your frustration, and where we are now is a lot different than where we were when I started. And we haven't gotten to where we need to be, and that's why I'm running again. You know, we all have a vision of what school can be, and we all have an idea of what school should be. You know, now we just have to find a way to work together to get this. The amount of growth that this board has had over the past 4 years is pretty amazing. We used to have a board that didn't talk to one another. And part of it is that a lot of us decided that we were going to shed ego at the door and listen. And that's a hard thing to do, especially when you're us, right? I mean, we're up here for a reason, you know. But the greatest skill that I have taken away from this is that I've learned how to listen. I've learned how to listen to the people in particular and represent them in the way that they want to be represented. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. So we are going to go through our submitted questions now. We collected, I think, about 18 questions in total on our website over the past month and a half or so. These questions have not been shared with the candidates ahead of tonight's forum. The Family Advisory Board Executive Board narrowed the list down and kind of edited them to remove some of the combative language and make them a little bit more appropriate for a forum. But each question is going to be posed to all of the candidates. In the spirit of managing time, we are going to limit the time for answering each question to 5 minutes. So the goal is for you guys to interact with each other, to bounce off each other. I know sometimes at these forums, you go, each candidate gets the same question and it just kind of becomes an echo a little bit. So we're kind of hoping for some dynamic answers between you guys. It's also good practice because that's kind of how it works when you're on a board together. You kind of have to jump in and talk and be patient and figure out how to ask for your turn. So this is going to be kind of an interesting experiment for all of us. So if you're still answering your question and the 5 minutes has come up, myself or Emily is going to kind of come in we're going to kind of come around and get your attention. And that means we're not going to have another person speak after that. So you can finish your thoughts, but at that point we're going to move on to the next question. Does that make sense for everyone? Awesome.
And just to be clear, it's 5 minutes per question, not 5 minutes for one person to talk about the question. So we do want people to share the option.
35 seconds.
We got this. All right, are we ready?
And I know, so some of you can probably see this. I'm going to read them too, so if you can't see it, don't worry about it. But they are up on the board, and we have a 5-minute timer for those of you who can see it. So the timer's going to count down if people want to look at that. How would you encourage the Board of Education to become more actively involved in shaping state-level policies?
I can talk to this because I actually just experienced a very small form of this today. We were talking about the kids being prepared for the milestones and all the different preliminary tests they take throughout the year, iReady and STAR and MAP and all those things. And did you know that there is one that's specifically formulated for the milestones, but the state legislature said no to it? The Beacon was denied. Anyway, we actually spoke about this. So knowing that and knowing that things like that are happening at the state level, those are things that we as a board could potentially bring to the table and find somebody, our legislators, and educate them on what is going on in the day-to-day of the schools. And they're not just saying, oh, this thing that makes the most sense, and you just shot it down because, I don't know, you weren't paid enough money for it or whatever. Anyway, that's very relevant to what I discussed today at the state.
Just very quickly to piggyback off of what Lily's saying there, a lot of this is going to boil down to personal relationships with our local legislative delegation. Those are going to be the first people that we're going to go to. Those are going to be people that are going to listen to us more so than from any other parts of the state. It's going to be our responsibility to explain to them what are the issues we're facing, what needs to be addressed, and if possible, as much as we can, because obviously they're the legislators, explain to them what we think they could do, how they could be impactful in addressing these issues that need to be addressed.
I think to add on with that, they have the votes, of course, at the General Assembly, but they listen to all of y'all, I would expect, more than they listen to any school board members, if not for anything else than sheer numbers. And so another dimension to this would be our role would be going out in the community, if not at least knocking on doors, if not trying to have little get-togethers, coffee, that kind of thing, and mention to people how this works, like helping people understand. I didn't know 10 years ago just the levels of funding and where all the funding streams come from and what exact power those legislators have, and like where the school board's power ends and where their power begins. We have a very narrow lane on the school board. It's a lot of stuff to do, but it's not that expansive of a thing. We can't wave a wand and do this kind of stuff. So helping our neighbors understand this would help y'all be on our side and help also knock on their doors and tell them, please change things in Atlanta.
Well, and also if whoever is elected from this group to the board, it's our responsibility to be abreast of new legislation coming down regarding education. And what I would say is let's go on a field trip once a year. The realtors do it, Day at the Dome. We go and we meet with our legislators and we hear about legislation and they're happy to meet with us. I think they would be just as willing to meet with the school board.
I think it also boils down to ongoing communications with with our representatives. They are elected, and so I know that they have some interest in what we think, and so ongoing communication.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Something else we also, not to monopolize this conversation, but it's going to be very important to be proactive and not reactive, especially with things as it relates to schools and especially school funding, where you're going to have to make sure that we as a board know what they're considering and address something before it potentially becomes a problem for us months and years down the road.
Well, there was a couple of things here. First, we had to clean our own house. We had no problems about 4 years ago. We almost lost our accreditation because we couldn't act like grown-ups. But that's off the table now. Now we have we become more forceful with the Georgia School Board Association. We participated in February. The Georgia School Board Association had all of the school boards come to Atlanta 2 Tuesdays in a row. And we brought students to talk to our legislatures. Part of the problem that we've had with our legislators is that they really haven't cared too much about our community. They have gone out of their way to pass bills and things that have stripped money from our schools. They have done things, even though we talked with them and we said, hey, this is gonna hurt us, they were more involved with political ideology than the actual care of their community. And you know, I don't care what party you are, as long as the children of Clarke County are taken care of, and they are not being taken care of by this legislation at all.
Got 4 seconds.
Well said.
It's a different kind of format, but we got 5 questions, okay? Okay, with the upcoming charter renewal, what is your stance on creating a charter system advisory committee, and who would be on it?
Well, since I ended, I'll start this. First, I'm not really thrilled about charters to begin with. The idea of the charter system is that we're supposed to do new and innovative things, and I would challenge any of you to walk through any of our elementary schools and then go to any of the Atlanta schools and see if there's any difference. There is not. They're the same. They're doing the same stuff. The only difference is that we get waivers now, so that way we can have 40 kids in a classroom instead of 20. So, you know, I think that if we're going to do the charter system, we need to do the charter system. We need to really dig down into, you know, the idea that the teacher is the leader of that classroom and allow them to do that work. So yes, charter system advisory committee, absolutely. But begin the charter renewal, first off, I want to know why we want to renew it since we're not doing it.
A piece that comes to mind for me with this is, as Mark said, the charter system, the history of it and how it came about. I understand why it began, but it just seems to be kind of lingering there's not enough political will to really get it right. I believe it was like a Band-Aid because of the recession, to relax the requirements because school systems couldn't make ends meet. And rather than legislating something, the state said, how about we just relax the laws we've already written for you? And like Mark said, you relax your class size requirements, you relax your teacher planning protection, you relax things like that. And so what I think of, first of all, as a school board member is, how soon does this decision have to be made? If it's next month, that's too soon. I've learned a board as large as 9 people, we can't and we shouldn't move like that with 13,000 kids looking up at us hoping we get it right. That's way too late to be saying, what should we do? This should be a years-long conversation. So an advisory board sounds wonderful. I do not envy the board members currently because I understand it's a pretty soon decision that has to be made this year. I don't envy that because I want to be able to listen and talk like this for, I'll be honest, hours over many months to hear everyone's conversations, hear what our neighbors have told us, talk to legislators, get their feedback, because it's not a decision to be made lightly. There's reason that went into the laws that were written, and I feel like they were waived in an emergency, but the emergency's passed. Like the recession's done. There's no need for that Band-Aid anymore.
Yeah, I feel that everything should point back to instruction. And so if the charter system is renewed, there should be more attention on what create or what support effective instruction. And I think we spend a lot of time talking about other things, but not that, and that should be the central issue here, concern here, should be instruction. And in it, one thing that I did when I said this is a long story, so I have to make it short. But when I retired in 2013 from the Labor Department, I was so afraid about what I would be doing the next year that I volunteered in a classroom. And I can tell you that model of one teacher and 20 kids with different levels of background does not work. And so it's actually kind of sad that we continue to do that, and we know that it's not working. It didn't take me long to know that didn't work. And so the charter system, if it's going to be a redesign so that it focused, so that it clearly focused on instruction, then I'm for it. But otherwise,
We got 1 minute left on this one, so.
Yeah, if the charter system is the system that established the LSGTs, I don't think we've actually taken it seriously and implemented it. So I don't think we even know what the charter was supposed to be, because we're not serious about wanting to keep aspects of it, which is the LSGTs. And we're not serious about, it's just what Mr. Smith said about spending a day in the classroom and seeing the lack of content that is being disseminated is haunting. I was a cross-country coach at Hillsman, and I was a girls soccer coach last year, and I was a cross-country coach this year. And, I had 13-year-olds who couldn't tie their shoes. We're in a system where over half of the black kids can't read, and only a fraction of the black boys can. But everyone's acting as if that's like, everything's good and we just need to kind of paper over some aspects, when we're talking about illiteracy in a way that is disgusting. But I don't see enough disgust being manifest from the administrative class or the teachers, actually. But I do see it from the parents, and that's why I want to get parents in the classroom. I went to a PE class.
Yeah, somebody's keeping time. Finish your thought.
I went to a PE class because I was a cross-country coach and soccer coach. And, the boys were just kind of free-for-all, and the girls were gossiping on their phone. And I was like, oh, maybe that was gossiping and playing on their phone. And then I thought, well, maybe that's an anomaly. Then I went to that same class 2 weeks later, and you know what was happening? The exact same thing. I don't think you understand how dysfunctional and reproductive of ignorance our current schools are. And I think, if you did, you should be horrified, or you should not have a job in CCSD.
Okay, next question.
How would you encourage parents, teachers, and community members to become part of their LSGT team to continue their involvement?
I have a quick question. Can you just tell us what the acronym means?
Yes, so I'm so sorry. LSGT means Local School Governance Team. One of the conditions of the charter system agreement is that school-based decisions like budget, personnel, and some curriculum choices. The local school governance team is an elected body at the individual school comprised of teachers, parents, community members, and they have parliamentary procedure on having meetings with the principal in that building.
So having served on one for 2 terms, I'll start this one out. To the point of what Irami was saying, it's not an easy task to get people to participate because they are not taken seriously. We had to really fight. I had to go over my administrator's head to get traction on a program that Dr. Hooker met with Citrina and I on the Career Ready program. We had a Zoom meeting with him, and he was like, yes, I just came back from Lincoln, Nebraska. I like that you guys are taking this initiative. Let's do it. But we were not getting support and buy-in at Cedar Shoals. So had to break chain of command for the students. It should not be that way. It didn't cost anything. The Clarke County Mentor Program, they're doing all of our onboarding and background checks for free. They're pulling from their own mentors to go into our schools and talk to kids 5-to-1, a much better ratio than 20-to-1, to help them figure out what they want to do post, high school.
So let's redirect the question. What would we do to encourage people to?
I don't know. That's the problem.
I think we should encourage parents to get involved, period. And so that is one way to get them into the system, so to speak. So again, because we don't have enough of that. We do not have enough parent or community involvement in the schools. And going back to my story of spending a year in a classroom, I made a difference. And the principal and the teacher told me I made a difference because it freed the teacher up to give more attention to the students. And I could do what I could. I could walk around the class, and I could help with classroom maintenance, so to speak. And I'm pretty good at that with working with young folks. And so again, we need more parents. We need more community people in the school. And at the center of my platform is support for the classroom. And so one means of providing that support would be to have more people involved and have parents involved. So again, getting on the governance team would be one step of how to get connected to the schools.
I think I echo a lot of everything that's been said. I think educating the parents on the importance of not just being a part of an LSG team, but just being a part of their students' education is super duper duper important, because if we don't have the parents on board, we lose them the minute they step in the classroom. And so I think that just the education of them and them understanding that the importance of this education is a ticket for them to move along in life and be the best they can be and get the highest level of education they can come and go and move on and be the best they can be.
I think as I stated at a former forum, and then it's being a part of LSGT before, it truly takes a village. And if we're going to want the best for our children, be it a member of LSGT or whatever, as Mr. Smith stated, we've got to become involved and concerned. We've got to not so much point the finger of blame to say this is what's wrong with the school, but point the finger of how can I help make the school better. Like Mr. Smith said, we've got to get into schools, be willing to volunteer, but volunteer in a sense of not trying to take over the school. Schools have rules. Excuse me. Schools have rules for a reason, and we've got to be able to work within those rules, or you'll end up with just total chaos in the school, and the children won't learn, teachers won't be able to teach. So we've got to be able to find that good medium and work together to do what's best for the children.
And we have to take the LSG team seriously. The reason it didn't work was because, and we couldn't get people involved, is because they knew that they weren't being taken seriously. So if you're not being taken seriously, why would you sign up to do the work?
So I will say that I think that there's actually a conflict of interest between the administration of the school and the parents, and I don't think anyone has anything invested in the school like the parents of the children of that school. We don't get a check from it, it's not our pension, we don't get paid for moving people through, we only get some sort of sustenance if our children learn and their community learns. So I think that to pretend that the interests of the administration that gets paid and pays the mortgage from working in the school and the interests of the parents are the same interests is, I think, a little bit naive in a way that doesn't work for the students, right? So I want to shift. I think as a parent of 3 children who've moved through Clarke County schools, I thought that the administration wanted out of me money and snacks. Everything else, just hush and let us do our job. You can't even go in to the school if I need to like drop off my sweatshirt for my kid. I should be able to just flash my ID. They should recognize me as a parent of like a zillion kids there. I should be able to drop off my sweatshirt, peek into my class. Anytime I feel like it, I should be able to walk in and peek into a class. At first you could say like, well, you know, safety. But you know, parents aren't shooting up schools. It's siblings and alumni. It's not parents. So.
All right, we're going to move to the next question. Thank you, guys.
Jamie, I think this is a really important question, and I think we're dancing around it. Here's the problem. Schools want compliance, they don't want creativity. Okay? The reason they want compliance is because they've got a tough job. They've got to take 400 to 500 children, keep them safe. And you do that by keeping things locked down. You want a real interesting field trip? Go to the jail, take a look at the color scheme of the jail, then go to your local school. It's the same bloody thing. When I taught DeKalb, I saw the same thing. I went and painted my mother helped me paint my wall purple because I'm a Ravens fan. The kids from Atlanta loved that very much, but that was okay. All right. So that's the first issue. The second issue is that parents don't have time. Most of the parents that live and work in Clarke County have 2 to 3 jobs. When do they have time? They've got to make ends meet. Right? We have our largest employer that suppresses wages. They just do. Right? And that's something we don't talk about because we want to get along. We want to have a pilot program. We want to do all these things. And I'm all for collaboration, but you have got to recognize that the main problem is that we have some societal issues that have to be addressed, right, before we can even begin to think about how great an LSGT team is.
Thank you. Yes, we're going to move to the next question. Okay, guys, thank you so much. We have time to talk more about all of this stuff, and we should. All right, what are your ideas to open or expand communication with local universities for volunteer opportunities with CCSD?
Kevin should resign.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea again, because we need more people in the schools. Because when you talk about trying to bring more support to the classroom, one of the first things that's brought up is we can't afford it. But having volunteers who can and able to do it would answer part of that dilemma. And I agree with Mark about you can't expect, not everybody has the same parent situation, and they grow up with the same parent situation. So you can't rely expect for parents with 3 jobs or whatever to be able to do that. And oftentimes they have 3 jobs because they have low-level jobs and they can't take off. But again, that's where the community comes in, and that's where what Reginald talked about, the village. That's real. If we're really serious about this, the village got to chip in where there are voids.
There are certain programs that I know that we've had with the University of Georgia over the years, some that have been expanded here in the last couple of years. But quite frankly, that's one of those things that I've never particularly understood. We have the flagship university of the state of Georgia right down this road. There is a wonderful education department in there. When my 2 boys were in elementary school, when you had the college kids come in there for whatever reason, it just was the highlight of the day to have them in there, their energy, their wanting to teach these kids. And we've talked about this in a lot of these forums. One of the big things in education, especially in the South, that has developed over the last 10 years is what Mississippi has developed, and what they have achieved in the last 10 years, and it's spread to Louisiana and Alabama. It's commonly referred to as the Mississippi Miracle. I'll talk about it ad nauseum in these forums. But it takes these kind of relationships. It takes people in there focusing on the Mississippi Miracle, phonics-based reading. As has already been stated, we have a problem with people that cannot read in our school system. And if you can't read, you can't do anything. So we have got to do better in this particular regard.
And I'll go ahead and do my Books for Keeps plug, because applications are now open to be a literacy mentor, as I have done for the past, since 2022. I've been at Stroud. I'm about to switch over to Fowler in the fall because of my schedule. But getting students, and I probably will before their final on Friday, send the link to my students at UGA and say, hey, here's something you can do in the fall, because they always have, even if they're not doing it because they're just being altruistic, sometimes they have requirements to do community engagement and involvement for whatever they have going on campus. But any of you today could go in and just read with a student. The Mississippi Miracle, we have that coming in Georgia, Science of Reading. Phonics-based instruction. We've already been doing phonics-based instruction. Now we're going to get, literacy coaches, but it doesn't have to cost $61 million. We just need to read to children. Parents aren't literacy experts. They just read to their kids, but some don't because maybe they can't read. My own sister probably reads at a 5th grade level. So my nephew struggles with reading, right? So I've experienced that in my own family. It can happen anywhere, and what do you do about it? Well, you have to start somewhere, and I say go read to some kids in our schools.
We got 1 minute left on this one.
Well, to answer the question, how to expand communication, I think it would be a great idea if there was a liaison between UGA, Athens-Tech, and the school district so that we could have one point of contact. I think I spoke with Emily earlier this year about the same thing. A lot of times you don't know who at UGA you need to contact. So you send blanket emails out, but then you don't know if it's going to the right person, so they don't get responded to. So I think we need some point of contact at both places, UGA, Athens Tech, wherever, and some direct contact person with Clarke County so that we're not spinning the wheels in the mud, trying to figure out who we need to talk to, and then that person can disseminate the information that's needed by the schools to get volunteers and that sort of thing in the schools.
Thank you.
What I've found in working with the university is it's more effective to work with people than with the institution, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I get a lot of support from people that are associated with the university on an individual basis. We started a vital in contact program 6 years ago with professors in the School of Social Work and interns, and we just completed the 6th year of that. And so, but again, we have to go out and talk to folks, communicate with folks who are like-minded, and then we can get somewhere. I'm not for meeting with the administration at the University of Georgia to try to solve this. It just doesn't seem.
We're going to move to the next question, okay, guys?
It's impossible to be an expert in every subject, and elected officials have to rely on the expertise of others. What topic is an area of expertise for you, and why? Who and how would you learn or lean on others?
So the area that comes to mind for me, first of all, is classroom teaching. And I know that were I to be on the school board, I would bring that perspective in, not claiming to know exactly what the teachers here are going through in every classroom, but having more of a baseline understanding of when the bell rings Monday morning and those kids come down the hallway, what is it probably like for them in a way that other candidates don't understand. And I know that I need to check that too, because I might go too far with that and say, oh, I know how it is in 5th grade, I know how it is in 9th grade, and I don't. But I have a basic idea of it. And as far as leaning on learning from other people who have expertise that I don't have, I have to remind myself that I have thoughts and passions as a parent and as a teacher, but as a school board member, there's a different lens there. It's a different hat that we're wearing. And we need to be careful because our only employee is the superintendent. That is the point of contact between us and everybody in the school system. We stray from that at our peril. We need to talk to them and only to them about the school system. Give them an earful every chance we get because they're our employee, but we should never meddle with getting involved with principals and what they do in their buildings, least of all the teachers and how they do their day-to-day things. We've gotten in trouble as a system over the years for, with the best of intentions, veering over a little bit there. And so I think about leaning on expertise of the superintendent that we will be paying a lot of money to, who has earned that salary, the phone fell down, and is able to speak to their principals and their instructional coaches and all the experts that we're paying all of our money in great big heaps to. If we try to second guess them or try to step over them, we're just wasting money and wasting your money and my money.
See, I would say that we need to ask the teachers what they need in the schools because they're the ones spending time. It's not that we tell them how to do their job, that's not what we're here to do, but we're here to listen and take community feedback. Getting community feedback and talking to teachers who are in our community is actually part of the structure of this board. My background is also in education. Even before I, taught at Cedar and now at UGA, I worked in food service and I always leveled to be a trainer. So I've been teaching people how to do something, whether it was hostess or wait tables or bartend or dance. I'm also a dance teacher. So education it's been in me since I was like 18 years old. And it's the most important thing that we can do. So who's the person purveying that education? The teacher. We need to listen to them and get feedback from them so that we can then make better decisions on policy. Because a lot of the policy impacts what teachers can and cannot do, and it might be, as we've said, stifling innovation.
Specifically, some of the things that I think I would bring, besides the fact that I've got 2 children that I've already mentioned come along in the district, and they are active, obviously, at Clarke Central. My mother, growing up, was also a public school teacher. She taught 2nd grade most of her career. So I've seen that aspect of what it's like in the school system through her. But specifically, probably the biggest thing with me, and it's become more and more relevant here in the last 6 months to a year, is the business perspective that I would bring to this as the owner and operator of a business and now partner in a firm, and having done this for the last 20 years. And I want to make this very, very clear. I am very much aware that a business is not government. Those are 2 different things, and to try to conflate the 2, you do that at your peril. But we are having a lot of pushback on property taxes here in the state of Georgia. More so, though, than what may change there is that we have had an extraordinary explosion of property values over the last 5 years. And as everyone knows, the majority of your property taxes are going to the school system. We are not going to have that kind of growth over the next 5 to 10 years. We are eventually in this country going to have a recession. That is another thing we have got to get ready for. And I think when those challenges confront us, I think I will be in a position with my skill set to be of help.
I think what I can say about myself and everybody up here is that our expertise might be in our passion. We are experts in our passion for the kids of this county and for the community here. And I think that we take that passion and then become not experts, but we learn more about things that become relevant. The literacy, the CCRPI scores, the behavior things that we need to learn about, the budget things we need to learn how. We take that passion, we put it into that, and then we become the experts. We can't all be experts.
20 seconds.
Okay, I would say collaboration, and I feel like I'm an expert in working with others, and I got numerous examples. I mentioned some of them. During COVID, we did a online math camp, and again, I worked with some people from the University of Georgia, individually, professors, and then others who I've known that have volunteered throughout my other programs, and we put it all together, and we did, during COVID, we did an online math camp. So again, the ability to work with people.
Okay, we're going to switch it up now. It's time to test the knowledge of our CCSD school board candidates. This is something super fun. I'm really excited about it. Candidates on the tables in front of you, there's little bags. Each of you should grab a bag. Inside your bag, there's... I think I have 8.
You do?
I
is yours. Yes.
Because I brought one extra in case, yeah.
Oh, boy.
So inside the bag, they have signs. One says Board of Education, one says the superintendent, and one says the state of Georgia.
You have a dunce cap for you?
The game that we're gonna play is called Who Has Authority? Alright, does the Board of Education, the superintendent, or state have authority? I thought this would be a fun way to help everybody understand that this is a really super hard job. That your boundaries are really, really tight. And so there are definitely wrong answers, but I don't want you to feel bad if you get them wrong, because
That's how you learn.
yes, this is how we learn. All right. So there's no time on this one. I'm going to pose a question. I want you to look at your little signs and hold up your answer. And maybe, how about Lexi, when you notice that everyone has their signs up, that'll be my signal that we can reveal the answer.
So we're not supposed to look at other people's signs?
I don't care if you do.
What if they have the
But-
wrong answer?
Well, no, I mean, I asked them.
I
Are
mean,
you sure?
Do not look at me. because
You can use whatever strategy
This
feels
is
right
why
for
we
you.
have a lawyer.
all right, who is responsible for ensuring that board-approved policies are implemented in schools?
We can't say that.
Yeah, can we,
That's
you
okay.
guys, can you read them? Like in the audience, we can't read
Just,
them?
let's start with Mark and go down and tell me who you
The
got.
superintendent.
That's what I put too.
Yeah? Everybody got that?
The superintendent.
No, we have some people who said something
I have
else.
the state.
Oh.
Superintendent.
All right, ready? It's the superintendent.
I want to hear Adam, can I hear Adam's reason? Can I hear Adam's?
I would just imagine that if there were complaints, and I could be just wrong, but I would think that if there were complaints, they could be raised with the Godot and the governor's office and the legislature.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe eventually, but in the day-to-day process. All right, next one. Who has the authority to create and approve school board policies? All right, shout out your answers.
Board of
Board of
Education.
Yeah?
Board of Education.
Yeah?
I can see something.
Are we ready? Board of Education is the correct answer. Good job, guys.
Pretty smart.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm a systematic guy. So what can the state do vis-a-vis the Board of Education?
That's a conversation that we can have over a beer.
There's a question.
Well, what the state does is the state seeks Godot or the PSC.
Godot is
or the Georgia Department of Education, my bad, sorry everybody. Sorry. I'm a professor of education, so we speak Godot language, my bad. Yeah, they sit their dogs on you.
So they can actually police.
Oh, they can. They make laws. We've got to put in metal detectors in every single school in Clarke
And that
County.
was not a Board of Education.
That was not a Board of Education policy, but
That's not a
because it's
state-
coming in, we have to make it a policy.
That's not a state policy either. We actually had that conversation today also. It comes from the board. It comes from the local district.
Yeah.
Yeah. Metal detectors?
Yeah.
Metal detectors are not coming down from the state, mandated by the state.
It's not mandated by the board, so
It's coming from the legislature. They passed a law.
We actually had a specific conversation because a parent asked our state superintendent, Richard Woods, this morning, she said, we have one metal detector at our school, is that coming from the state? And he said no.
Well, yeah, the state's paying for it because we're not paying for it. I mean, they're the ones who just gave us $61 million for it, so.
Fight.
I mean,
No, I'm just repeating what I heard this morning.
And if that's a free $61 million, I would be glad to talk to the board attorney and be like, all right, screw it, let's buy some books.
All right, let's stay on track.
it's the realtors.
All right.
They're the.
Next question. Who has the authority to place an item on a board meeting agenda in practice and policy?
Actually, can I hold up two?
Yes, that's a problem.
I say be the superintendent
What are
of
you
the
guys
board.
holding up, because they can't read it?
Superintendent of the board.
And the board.
Yeah.
Because we can both put things.
Yeah. Superintendent is part of the board. So.
No, they are not, no, they are, no, they are an employee. Their job is to bring up the issues and problems from the school system to us, and when it's in our purview, like we gotta spend
But the
money.
superintendent is the one that actually drafts.
No, Dr.
there's a
Anderson and I
secretary
actually
make the
draft it.
agenda.
Really?
Yeah, we do it.
It's written on the school, on the website that the superintendent is the secretary of
Right.
the.
Yeah, Dr. Anderson and I are the ones who set the agenda and all that. That's what we're gonna do it on Friday.
Okay, cool.
What?
Can she propose?
Yeah, she does, yeah.
But the
Anyone
superintendent
can
can add
propose, I
things to
mean,
it.
you just gotta contact your board member.
Who has the authority to approve or deny a charter school petition submitted to a local school district?
Petition
State of Georgia.
We've got state of Georgia,
to a school district?
state of Georgia, and then Board of Education, state of Georgia.
It's the Board of Education.
Now, the state of Georgia does, so they can, which they have in the past, they have appealed. And the state of Georgia has that, they do have the final say, but the first sticky point is us.
Who has the authority to approve or deny a charter school petition submitted to a local district?
So the charter schools apply to the local school board to siphon some of that money out of their
For
budget.
this example, someone has.
That's such a split little hair.
Yeah.
This isn't helping me know who to vote for at all. I'm sorry.
Candidates, do you feel like this is helping you flex and think a little bit?
I mean, if she has a
It's kind of
concern,
fun
I'll
in there.
validate it.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's a voter, what do you want to hear? I'm sorry.
I think we should do votes. This is silly. I'm sorry, it's silly.
We only have a couple left.
Good.
Who sets the minimum number of instructional days for schools?
State does.
State.
Well done, State of Georgia.
I was wrong, but.
No, I'm wrong.
Who makes the final decision on student expulsion after a tribunal recommendation?
That'd be us. The board.
So what are you guys holding up?
Board.
Everybody's saying the Board of Education.
Yep, that's the one. And let me explain some of my reasoning for this. I understand some of these questions might not be things that make sense to you guys, but what I'm trying to tease out here is the awareness that these candidates have on where their lane is. It's an important thing to kind of tease out. And so this is as much for them as it is for you guys. So I appreciate you.
Can I make a comment on that?
Sure.
I don't believe that's correct. The alternative school counts as being expelled from the Clarke County School District. You're not allowed to set foot on any other Clarke County property. Or doesn't that say anything to yourself?
That's incorrect, ma'am. The parents they have 10 days, any ruling on anything that they can appeal to the board. And then it comes to the board, and the board listens to what was presented in the tribunal. Then we have to make a decision on what we do with that. So we can either uphold what the school says, we can lessen it, or we can dismiss it.
So that's if the parent knows they can do it.
Exactly.
The parent is told by the tribunal council, there is a letter that is sent home to the parent that, I mean, you can shake your head no all you want, but I'm telling you, this is what it is.
I have a hard time believing she's making it up. Like,
No, I'm not saying she's making it up, I'm just saying that I'm the one who sits on these tribunals, I know how they work.
But if
I think the question, gentlemen, I think the question here is, do all parents actually know? Do they actually receive these letters? Are they aware and in full understanding that they only have 10 days to make this appeal?
Yeah,
And it sounds like the feedback from the community is that no, in
I
general, they're all aware.
would say that we do a really good job of making them aware of what their rights are.
she's saying no.
That's one person.
Okay, we're gonna move to the next one, okay? Who has the authority to waive or modify certain state rules through flexibility systems or waivers? This one's tricky because of the way it's worded. Who has the authority to waive or modify certain state rules through flexibility systems or waivers? And cheating with
So what are you holding up, guys?
State and board.
This is where I ask someone who knows.
And the state, Board of Education, Board of Education. Some people have not raised their hand.
It's the state, it's the,
Yeah, I'm gonna ask someone who knows, I don't.
yeah.
See, I got that one wrong, too.
How many?
I think there's just one more. I think this is the last one. Oh, shoot, I just messed that up.
They didn't say
Did you see it?
I didn't see
I did, I won't answer.
That one
I did, I
was-
want to answer.
Sorry, I messed that up. Just fat fingers.
That's all right.
Who has the authority to approve contracts entered into by the school system? It's the Board of Education. Sorry about that.
Contracts,
I
yeah.
blew that one
Oh,
off.
the board had that.
My bad, guys. My bad. All right, thank you for indulging us in that fun little exercise. I hope it was a little bit of a different flavor from what is typical in a forum. We have a couple of questions that we've received on cards. Some of the questions that we received are specific to an individual, so we're gonna pass those to the individual. But we're not gonna have them here, and I'm gonna wait and see if there are any other questions that jump in, and we'll kind of slice them in between.
So as we all know, we have parents working multiple jobs, very long hours, doing a trek back and forth to get to work, wherever they're at. We also have things called like Class Dojo, automated phone calls, emails, whatever. Do you possibly feel like parents feel like they're already overly involved because they're aggravated with all of the notifications, and so they just can't think about one more thing? What I'm actually getting at is, how could we mainstream so that there are less pings on a parent's phone per se, to encourage maybe more participation in things like PTOs, and I'm going to get the acronym wrong because I'm bad with the acronyms, but whatever that L one was. Do you think we could somehow come up with an idea to mainstream that so that we're not having, I know for me, when my daughter was in high school, I'm getting notifications all the time, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm fixing to put my phone aside. So that's just what I was.
I think that the problem is you want to hit multiple points of communication because having been a teacher in the district, sometimes the phone numbers don't get updated. So you got to make sure, because if you're just sending a text message to avoid sending an email, what if the phone number is bad? What if the email's bad and the phone number is good? So you send something because it's better to over communicate whatever it is than to not have communicated it at all.
I think to jump in, I think that when I taught at Coyle, it's been a few years ago, but when I taught at Coyle, I remember making those phone calls, and you get to the third or fourth phone number, and for different reasons, life happens. The phone doesn't, the call doesn't connect. And from a compliance perspective, we must be able to tell our principal that we have tried to call home. And so there's that level, but I don't think that's what you're asking. One thing that comes to mind first is the way we don't do it as a school board is we don't tell the superintendent, tell your teachers 5 messages maximum per day. I don't think that's the way we do it. We ask our superintendent, our employee, what are you hearing from your principals? What are you hearing from your parents? What are they telling you? Let's have a conversation. And what do you think, superintendent, is a reasonable way to navigate this? Because we're hearing from the community, leave us alone, please. But also, we don't want to go too far and say, hey, we never hear from you. So I think the dialogue, the conversation with our superintendent and hear from them and do the chain of command kind of a thing. So the principals don't feel undue pressure from us. The superintendent can talk to the principals to teachers, and work out a solution that's not a one size fits all, but make it fit for, maybe it's different for high school and different for middle school. Maybe it's different for Central and different for Cedar, but just get it right for the parents as much as we can.
Yeah, I hear you about streamlining, because oftentimes it comes down to a checklist, and he alluded to it, trying to make sure that they can say that we made these attempts. But what we really need is true communication and partnership between the parents and the school, rather than, like I say, that the interruption of the phone call becomes something that's not even positive anymore. It's not doing what it was kind of set out to do. So the real thing is to work to develop, to work on developing true partnerships between that parent and that school and that teacher.
Something, I can certainly understand where you're coming from with some of the frustration, because believe me, not to keep saying it, with the 2 kids, I get a lot of notifications. And what I have just found personally with school communications, and frankly, a lot of communications just in life nowadays, is there certain avenues that I just find easier to work with. So I just know I can keep up with everything that I need to keep up with using Class Dojo or whatever it may be. And that's what I focus on, so as to not be completely overwhelmed.
And sometimes I think that the technology is introduced to families without them understanding how to use it. So that's frustrating in itself. It's not that communication back and forth like people envision it. So that can be a problem too, is not making sure that the communication is effective.
Another aspect of that is a lot of this communication becomes noise because we don't have good relationships with the inner workings of the school. So you don't know what's noise, but it's all kind of high stakes because you miss one of the wrong class dojo and all of a sudden your kid doesn't go to the field trip. Doesn't play soccer. So it's high stakes noise in a way that I think could go away if there were more meaningful relationships between the school and not, and I get upset about the coordinated or elaborate, the theater of events. Like if the only interaction you have with your school is a quality of, lunch on the lawn, or some of these choreographed events that don't actually give you like a real sense of your school, I think that it makes the minor bits of communication a little bit more stressful because you don't know what's real and what's not, and what's important and what's not. So, real meaningful participation in communication.
I'm gonna do one from the cards and then we'll go to you next, sir, okay? This is kind of two cards in one, so I'm gonna kind of smush them into one because I think they go well together. What financial chops do you have? The Georgia legislature wants to slash property taxes. What effects will this have on CCSD? How should we prepare? And does CCSD have professional grant writers on staff? Why or why not?
I would love to jump in and talk about the funding side of things for the school system. I think that a huge part of understanding as a school board, we need to know walking in that the money does not all come from the local government. A lot of it does, but not all of it. There's a lot from the state, a share from the federal. And so I think it's very important that we know, first of all, when I'm talking to our neighbors, that we're not treating this like a pot of money in the sky. It's your money and our money, and we need to be good stewards of that. And the financial chops, I believe, was the phrasing used. When I look at our tax bill, that my wife and I got, our property tax bill, the $2,500 for school M&O, we have our monthly budget date. We sit on our spreadsheet and say, if something like that pops up, we would say, does that need to be that high? Can we make it a little lower than that, please? And that's the mindset that I bring to it is, should we be spending that much? Should we be charging that much of our people in town? And the neighbors that I've met who are suspicious and skeptical of that very concern, which is real, that speaks to me that we need to do a better job as a board of making sure that folks understand why we're spending the money the way we are, where the money's coming from. And when things like the property tax change that Carl alluded to earlier, the law that it was not really close, but it was pretty close to passing this constitutional amendment that was going to do away with the local property tax funding schools and replace it with a pittance of a sales tax. It was going to completely blow a hole in our budget. And if we're not careful, if the school board doesn't represent that well to the community, folks will think, why is Clarke County Schools blowing up our budget? And we have to explain to y'all as well as we can, it's not us, it's the state. We cannot change that. We all need to call our senators and the governor about that. So I think the understanding of the diversity of revenue streams and the understanding of the fact that I strongly believe, I could be wrong, but I strongly believe there's no one twisting their mustache in the back room at CCSD saying we're going to spend $80,000 on some random stuff. Maybe there is waste. Maybe there is inefficiency, and I want to investigate that. But the trust that's been eroded over the years with our community, the fact that so many of my neighbors that I'm knocking on doors with are saying the same basic thing. Do y'all really have to spend that much money? I have a hard time believing 50 years ago that many neighbors were having the same conversations. I have a feeling that long ago there was more trust that's been corroded over the years, and I think the more transparent we can be with the community, the better we're going to get along with the community and rebuild that trust.
So something that has always sort of perplexed me about the property tax question. So about 50% of our budget comes from property taxes. About 50% of Clarke County's budget comes from property taxes. But for some reason, it's like, well, why are we spending all this money on education? We wouldn't be so quick to cut our police and our firemen and our public works. But we're very quick to want to cut education, and so the 50% we get from property taxes, half of that goes to pay teachers, not administrators, teachers. So we want more teachers, want better for our teachers, but we don't want to spend the money for it. It's just a perplexing thing. Everybody wants a discount. I am also concerned about the bill. I don't know that Kemp has signed it. Does anyone know if he's actually signed the bill?
The terrible one didn't pass.
Well, there was one that passed that was
Yeah,
going
there's
to
one that
limit it
passed
to
that they're-
3% year over year. I suspect he will veto it because while it won't impact Athens or Atlanta very much if we get the little sales tax, think about your rural schools. You know, I went to school in Worth County, Georgia, if anybody knows where that is. There's no industry down there. There's no, rental income. It means, where would they get, who's going to, are you going to go to the Peanut Festival and spend some money? I mean, so not to make light of it, but I really think in a certain way, if you're paying property taxes, that's a privilege. It means you own a house, right? So I think our education should be more valuable than, oh, we want a discount on our property taxes. Why is the school board spending all this money?
I don't want to say what I've already said. I mean, what I said about 15 minutes ago is exactly how I would answer this question. Again, given my business background, this is not something that we are going to be able to ignore. We are going to have to address the fact that property taxes just simply cannot continue to go up, because property values cannot continue to go up. And we're going to have to be creative with our budget to make sure that we are getting what we want from those taxpayers' dollars. And I think here in Athens-Clarke County, one of the things that will address a lot of the issues and the feedback that we get from people and consternation about property taxes and how they continue to go up is to address some of the issues like we've talked about tonight. The reading scores, the math scores. I don't believe I'm wrong here that we spend an enormous amount per capita per student here in the county. People want to see what we're doing to get those numbers up, getting our children educated, getting them to where they need to be, getting those graduation, can't say the word for some reason, graduation rates to where we would like them. Thank you.
I just want to say, yes, the property taxes are high and all those sorts of things, but what a privilege it is to educate our kids, and it is important that as a school board is utilizing the money in the most efficient and most proper way.
I'm gonna go back again and say effective instruction, because as has been alluded to, for a lot of the minority and African American youth, particularly young boys, they're not being educated. And so their parents should be asking, are we getting our money worth? And so that's why, to me, we should focus on effective communication. He mentioned the Mississippi miracle. What was, to me, the biggest miracle out of that was that it was bipartisan. Right? That Southern Democrats and Republicans got together to put together something that really works.
In Mississippi.
In Mississippi, right? So they went from the bottom to the top. And so, again, the focus has been on evidence-based instruction, doing those things that work. And so, and it's not that they went and invented those things. They pulled things together that work, and hopefully, I know Georgia just passed the law too, that based on that. Now, hopefully, some of that will come to Georgia and even to Clarke County, but effective communication. Because again, when we don't have effective communication, you do open yourself up to criticism from people who really want to take the money from public education, right? And so we got to do a better job.
So my experience has been that parents will pay for programs that work, and they're suspicious of programs that don't, and most programs don't do what they're supposed to do. And so when I was a coach, girls soccer coach, when my kid was on the team at Hillsman, they didn't win any games before, they didn't win any games after, but they won games by year. I got buy-in from the parents. I was cross country coach this last year at Hillsman. Program was in shambles the year before, but I got buy-in from the parents, so I started a parent booster, a group, and I got to figured out how to pay for what we needed. And I think actually my biggest flex on this issue is I have 3 rather outstanding kids You know, this weekend, now they're state champions in the mile and the 2 mile, play violin and piano and cello like a dream. And I did all of that and they read very well. And I did all of that, you know, while being relatively broke. So it doesn't actually take money if you systematically actually address the problems. And whether you look at the programs that I ran at Hillsman or my own kids, like you could do it on a budget if you're competent at addressing the problems and you're not just kind of fake doing it. There are a lot of programs in Athens that I have frustration because it takes 10 years to figure out how to raise a kid in Athens, but by that time it's too late. That say they do things that they don't actually do in terms of delivering content. And so we need to actually do the thing that we say that we're going to do. And then the parents in the community will buy in. Expecting a blank check for like a record of failure is, I think, a little bit ridiculous.
All right, Irami, we're gonna let Mr. Willis speak on this because I know he was trying to chime in, and then we're gonna move to that question in the back.
And I'll be brief. To the lady that made the statement about the game didn't make sense. And as an incoming board member, hopefully, I think some of the questions are not really to our expertise because we, as incoming board, we don't know all the ins and outs of what the previous board has done. So as an incoming board member, we would have to look at the data, dig into the data, figure out what worked, what didn't work, why it didn't work, and then make the best decisions. I think the questions, in my opinion, are a little one-sided because the answers we're giving are not really answering the question. And I look on the faces of a lot of the people in the audience and they're like, well, they didn't answer that. They just kind of danced around. And I feel like we've done that a lot tonight because we don't know the answer. Because we are incoming. We've not seen the information, the data that we need to see to answer the question. So I think, again, as I've said from day one, my strong suit is to bring some common sense to the board, that everything isn't going to be an overnight fix, that we're going to have to listen to our constituents, to the parents, to the teachers, to the administrators, and then we've got to do the work to figure out what is going to work. We can't just say this is going to work, and you know, every forum I've heard about the Mississippi Miracle, you know, okay, great, that was in Mississippi. We're in Athens. We can't keep talking about what happened in Mississippi. We've got to look at our students here in Clarke County and what's going to work for them. And we can't keep comparing them to other students in other places. We've got to know our families, we've got to know our students, and then make the best decisions to make our students successful.
All right, thank you guys. We're gonna move to this question from this gentleman in the back row.
Good evening.
Hi.
I just have just a quick question. What policies and procedures would you guys enforce in terms of doing business, nonprofits doing business with the school district in terms of MOUs, memorandums of understanding getting signed by nonprofits who has programs that's been effective and efficient within the school district? So what policies and procedures would you enforce for nonprofits working with the school district?
This is an unfair question. This is an unfair question.
Again.
Because I know this is Ernest Elder. He runs one of the best programs in our county. All right, CYDO is one of the best in the county. And we have a real problem. We've had a real problem with that in the past, right? We have made it almost impossible for nonprofits to come in and operate, especially nonprofits run by African Americans. Let's just talk plainly to one another, shall we? All right? And why is that? Well, there's all sorts of reasons. Socioeconomic, there's cultural, right? There's all sorts of things. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to kind of, as a board, take our head down and take a look and be like, hey, we're just like y'all. We want the best for our kids, right? And if that's a nonprofit that can do it without buying interference, more power to you. Okay? We need to create a highway for nonprofits to come in, right?
So what is the current policy if I don't?
The current policy is we don't have one.
Okay.
The current policy is, but
I want to hear his experience. What are the obstacles? Top 2 obstacles you had getting there?
Well, my organization, like Mr. Mark said, he's been really supportive of everything that we've done. We created the first time ever, if you see the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 6th grade basketball, the athletic program, CYDO created that program.
What was the problem? What stopped you from doing it immediately?
I think the partnership with the school district, Dr. Hooker didn't want to sign the memorandum of understanding because I guess there was no money exchange within that. But then another organization came in and took the idea and ran with it, and they did business with them because they were school. They worked with the school system. And we was a nonprofit organization that, I wasn't employed with the school district. So it was hard to, the agreement was that the facilities custodians would be, as long as everything was free for the kids, then the school district will provide facilities, custodians, and for them to play and to participate. So once that didn't happen, so we couldn't get an agreement. We couldn't get an MOU stating that this is what has been going on. We did this for almost 4 years.
Now, I kind of know the answer to this, but what was the usage fee that they were expecting from you?
$13,000 for custodians and security.
But what did we do? What did the board do?
What the school district board waived those fees for us for the next 2 years.
Yep, and we're about to waive it for 5.
But we just couldn't get the memorandum of understanding with the program. Like we have an athletic program that's combined with the academic program, which is the Athens tutorial program. We know there's a crisis in our school because the proficiency rate in math and reading is low in every school in Clarke County, and that's a fact. And we have a program that gives data every month to the county, to the government, to the Athens Housing Authority, and to the school district, monthly reports, and we still not getting funded for that. And we wonder why these kids can't read. If these kids can't read, they're preparing them to go to the county jail, 13, right? They're not preparing them to go to college, to get an education, in my opinion. So I just want to know what the policy and procedures is.
And to go back to the last question about the budget and the chops and all that good stuff, right? We're going to have to learn how to work with folks like this.
Yes.
Okay? Right. We're going to have to start making inroads. We're going to have to actually, actually go out into the community and sit down at these board meetings and listen to what they have to say.
Yep.
There are 8 million different nonprofits in Athens-Clarke County. 14, but there's a lot there, and they're all people with good work. We're all about the same thing.
Only about 35 of them actually work.
Okay.
But that's the problem. But there's 500 nonprofits and only 35.
But we still got to listen to them all because they're all our citizens.
Yeah. It takes a village, right? It take a village, but the village is broken.
Yeah.
Some people can't get in.
I think to just kind of add something to what Mr. Elder was saying, the district's policy with establishing a MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding, which doesn't have a whole lot of legal bearing, but it's just kind of like a formal agreement. The district only really establishes those with businesses when there's money transacting. And it's kind of to cover their tails.
Yeah.
And so when a nonprofit comes in and wants to do it for free, and they have figured out a way to have volunteers show up, and there's no money exchange, the district doesn't have a tool for that. And so I think that's what Mr. Elder is speaking to.
But they also don't have a will.
A will.
Yes, for
and
sure.
that's the bigger issue. Is that there's a cultural issue inside the system.
We don't care if these kids actually learn the skills.
No, what
the problem is the district can't figure that out. I'm sorry.
Well, and I think the thing that we're looking for is systemic solutions, not just individual nonprofits going through all of these steps to get it waived, but creating a highway like you were saying. I'm gonna pull one more question from here.
I do want to say one of my youngest was part of the pilot program when I first started, and I think it's so incredible that the elementary schools and the middle schools are able to, the 6th graders are able to play the sports like all the other kids. So kudos to you. Yeah. Thank you for what you do in this community.
I'm really looking forward to it being started up again next year.
Yeah.
And Ernest, would you tell them?
I think your microphone's off.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
There you go.
Ernest, would you tell them that it was always more than about sports?
Yeah, of course.
Well, sports in schools are a lot more than just a game.
Yeah, I think sports are important. Sports are good.
No.
Yes.
The basketball was just the athletic program was just a platform to reach the kids. But they had to learn the 12 principles of character development, which is life skills, social skills, conflict resolution, leadership, honesty, integrity, etiquette, just to name a few of them. And they had to be able to, they had book bag tags, and they put them on their book bags, and they had to be able to learn all 12 of them and apply them to their life. And we believe if they apply them to their life, they become better young men and better young women. And that's what we wanted, that's what we tried to implement with the athletic program. We had girls, boys, and cheerleaders. So we served over 400 students within the Clarke County School District. They tried to get the athletic to reach them and then the academic piece to help them to become better young men and better young women.
Yes, I can vouch for backpack tags. David's had backpack tag.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read this question. This is kind of another two kind of coming together. So let me get through kind of both of them. CCSD does a great job of highlighting achievements and opportunities. We don't hear much about the shortcomings and what's being done about them. There's an example here about Holston Elementary that 97% of fifth graders do not meet proficiency on the milestones for ELA, and 100% of Black fifth graders are below grade level in reading. Do you feel like CCSD owes its stakeholders transparency about school performance, or do you feel like posting data online for those who know where to find it and how to interpret it is sufficient? Additionally, all of the middle schools chose to have 8th graders take high school physical science instead of 8th grade science. And then the pass rate on the milestones end of course test is 39% at BHL, 37% at CMS, 28% at Hillsman, and 12% at Coyle. Do you feel like we're doing students a disservice by having them take a course when the majority of them are unable to pass the end of course test?
So I teach this, Carl, may I jump in? I'm sorry. I teach this class. I teach this course, and I can tell you right now, I vehemently oppose that policy. Now, as a board member, I would not say, superintendent, stop that. I would want to hear them out, and because I'm trying to think, I'm a teacher, I come in with a knee-jerk reaction of how can you possibly put 8th graders, all of them, whether they have an IEP, whether they are gifted, all of them, everyone through a program where they have to have taken 8th grade already, and they're doing 8th grade math already from day one in 8th grade. All these things they have to know already. I'm literally getting my kids ready for the EOC next Monday, and I have a panic attack thinking about all of my babies having to take that class and that EOC. But again, I would not jump in and flip the table over and say, make it stop tomorrow. I would want to hear the reasoning behind this. Maybe there is a poorly articulated but good reason, well-intentioned reason for this. As far as transparency with the community, absolutely. My neighbors that I'm talking to, I know that every single person I've spoken to when I've knocked on these doors, they want to support the school system. Most of them have great stories about the school system, but even those that are concerned, I know they want to support the schools. Like Mark has been saying, we've all been saying, we all want to help our kids. There's disagreement on how we do it. So, transparency, absolutely. You have the right to understand exactly what your money is buying, what your money is funding. Now, you may still disagree with the way it's being spent, but we owe you we need to dignify your concern with the transparency of here is where your dollars are going, but the next part that gets lost, we're all busy. We have so much stuff going on. The money decisions don't all get made by us. The state signs some of the checks that come our way, and so we have to abide by how much they're sending and what strings they attach to it, but we need to do a better job of articulating that to you and not sound like we're passing the buck or trying to pass the blame. We all got ourselves into this mess. It wasn't one person, as much as we might want to think it might have been one person we could blame. It's going to take a bunch of us to get us out of it. So there's so much to that question. The physical science for 9th graders being good to 8th graders sounds terrible, but I would want to hear out the superintendent. I don't want to violate chain of command. I want to hear from the teachers, through the principals, through the superintendent, before I jump in and say, stop that. I just want to go through the process.
So I'm going to speak to the lack of proficiency, the lack of reading. Again, literacy mentor. And when you start with literacy mentoring, the students you get they have to be 2 grade levels behind, right? And we have a lot of students who meet that standard, sadly. The literacy mentor program works well. The students at the control school don't close their gap as well as the students and jump back up to move up a grade level as with the same percentage as the ones who have a mentor. So if every student can have a mentor, but really what it boils down to for me is I think one-to-one technology was a mistake. It was a mistake. We rolled it out when I was at Cedar in 2012. I taught Spanish. I literally made worksheets on Google Docs just to check the box when I was observed, because if anybody in here has ever studied a language, you gotta write it down. We talk about visual learners, kinetic learners, auditory learners. Everyone is all of these things. It's just you might have more of an inclination to one over the other, but all students need to write things down on paper in order to learn it. And we need to go back to that. There was a recent data dive that I'm a big nerd. I love to listen to all kinds of podcasts. Cognitive science is one of my favorites recently, but Jared Cooney-Horvath, this cognitive scientist, just pulled data from 1992 to 2012. Top percentile, bottom percentile. There was only a 10% difference looking at math, reading, science scores internationally. Now it's 20%. We're going the other direction. And on top of that, in these standardized tests, they sprinkle in cognitive tests as well to see, creativity skills, executive functioning skills. They don't have them. They're really good at it's something called rapid visual sensing, TikTok videos, essentially. It's some sort of rapid, basically. And so it's not that we need to just throw away the computers. I think that 9th grade is a good time to introduce it, maybe with the class, because they couldn't type. And I was like, oh, what is this keyboarding class? I was a new teacher. That was my first year. It was piano. It wasn't, I was like, keyboarding, it's going to Mavis Beacon or something, Oregon Trail, That's what I thought was going to happen. But no, so you give a kid a tool and say, this is going to equalize education, but it doesn't. If students don't already know how to learn, they cannot learn on a computer. The science is out there, and if we're going to be data-driven, let's follow some cognitive science data too,
I love that. I'll piggyback on something there. Something I realized, my son is in 4th grade, and last year when he took the milestones for the first time, he had to write his essay questions, his paragraph questions. He had to type them, and he types like this, and it's a timed test. And I was like, when are they learning how to type? And the teachers were looking at me like, they don't. And I was like, what? That was the first time that it had really connected the dots for me, that they really aren't teaching them how to use the devices. They're just giving them the devices.
I brought this up at another forum. I love the Oregon Trail, by the way. I brought this up at another forum, and I know it seems somewhat crass to do so because we're obviously here because we love children and we want their education to be as much as they can be. But there's a practical aspect to this. The school system is a foundational part of any community. If we do not have this right, it is going to be poisonous to the growth of the community, especially economically. Because what's going to happen, this is a story I tell over and over again because it had such a profound impact on me 11 years ago. I was with the Chamber of Commerce and we went over to Atlanta one day to the Georgia Power office where they enticed businesses to come to the state of Georgia. And I asked the question when they were showing all these wonderful things they do, all these plots of land, all these resources they have, rail, access to seaport, the demographics of the area. Well, when you get to the school system, do you bring up any private schools in the area? Do you bring up schools in the surrounding counties? And the person paused and said, if we have to do that, we are going to lose the business. They are not going to come here. If we can't address these issues that we have in the school system with these test scores and the fact that the kids can't read, if we don't fix it, it may not happen in 5 years. A lot of us in this room may not be here anymore. But if we don't fix it, Athens-Clarke County, even with the University of Georgia, is going to be in economic trouble time and time again. Mississippi had to do what it did. It got all these people to agree, Republicans, Democrats, white, black, men, women, it doesn't matter your background, because the state was dying. And they knew if they didn't fix it, it was never going to get any better. It's a matter of will.
Well, first thing is we need to admit that we can't read. Like that's, even at the beginning, the introduction, one said like, oh, you know, CCSD is great, except for these problems.
Let me comment on that. For some, it's working very well. I bet your kid is doing fine. My kids both went through this system, and they did very well. And I know others, but what we have not given attention to for those who it's not working for, we have just sit back and let it happen, know that it's not happening, and just going on. I'm running for the school board because I want to make it work for all students.
Sure. Sorry.
That's okay. Also, to go along with what Mr. Smith just said, and I've said this before, we've got to stop lumping all the children in the same basket. We keep saying they can't read. Like he said, there are several children that can read. My granddaughter is a 9th grader in Clark Central and is doing well. My granddaughter and my grandson took the science test in 8th grade for 9th grade and passed it. This is where parents and the community have to get involved. We've got to say and communicate with the teachers and administrators and see if your child is failing. Don't wait until they get in middle school and high school and then say, well, they didn't teach them anything in elementary school. It's too late to try to turn the clock back.
Yes.
Start communicating at the elementary level. Talk to the teachers, talk to the administrators, see what your child is doing. We can't say that the school board's gonna fix it, that the schools have to fix it. It is going to take all of us working together. And again, that's why I keep saying it takes a village. But we cannot say that every child in the village cannot read. Those that can read, okay, pair them with, be a reading buddy.
Yeah.
Let them help that one that can. Sometimes peer pressure works better than an adult standing there saying, oh, well, you need to do this and you need. Okay, if they see someone on their level that's doing it, that may inspire them to say, oh, well, Johnny can do it, maybe I can too. But if we say, well, Johnny's doing a great job, but Billy, you're just dumb, you can't read, and I just don't know what to do with you. We've got to stop putting all our children in the same basket. Address the ones that can't, to push them forward, move them ahead. And I think as incoming board members, we don't have all the answers. The questions are kind of geared for us to say, this is what is going to happen, this is what's going to be done. We don't know what, when Mr. Elder asked what policies are we going to enforce, we don't even know what the policies are because we are not on the board. We've got to sit with former board members, talk to them, see what they've done in the past and try to see what we can do to make it work. I don't seem to mean to sound
We're
negative,
going to take one more little comment from Irami. I'm sorry, Millie. We're going to take one more comment from Irami, and then we've got 2 more questions that we want to do. We've only got about 15 minutes left in this room.
So there's a scam that I think that's propagated onto the public that annoys me and probably annoys some other people in the audience where like the top 15% of CCSD does fine. You'll hear stories, oh, you know, there's a kid who graduated who went to Brown, so obviously Stephen Scholes is doing great. No. Generating illiteracy at a ridiculous.
As long as there is a no-fail policy and that it's going to continue to happen.
It's going to continue. Well, I don't think it's just a no-fail policy.
But I think that is a huge piece of it.
I think that's a huge piece of it, but also the parents don't know how bad it is because the exceptional students, you'll say, oh, well, you know, Barnett Scholl's soccer team is great because, like, they did fine in the game. No, they did fine because of my daughter. My daughter graduates, the team's going to be horrible next year, and I'll tell you why. Because we're bad as a system at skill development. And I'll tell you something interesting about girls' sports. You can judge a school by their girls' team sports, because if you can't teach girls how to do the skill at a team level, and you're gonna have to do it because it's kind of countercultural, then you're not teaching boys how to read. And so, Clarke County is bad at skill development, and we're not admitting it. And we're using all of this kind of smoke and mirrors and choreographed events to kind of pretend that we don't have a fundamental problem of teaching people who don't want to learn how to do hard things. And that's the business of school. Teaching kids who don't want to learn how to do hard things.
Okay, Irami, we're gonna move on to the last two questions.
Excuse me, I'm sorry about me, I know I'm out of order. Just because you can kick a soccer ball don't mean you can read. And I don't think to say because girls are good at sports that boys are flunking academically. Well, that makes very little to
Okay,
no
I'm gonna stop
sense
you right
at
here.
all.
This is a discussion that we can definitely engage in later, but we wanna take these two questions, okay? Thank you.
Hey, you guys provided the perfect segue into my question. So, look, when you look at the data, 3rd grade, 5th grade, 8th grade, high school, 30% of the students cannot pass the milestone in ELA or in high school in the lit comp. If you look at Black students, it jumps to 80 to 85% cannot pass it. Yet, we do not retain. There might be a few exceptions, but as a general rule, Clarke County has not retained in 20 years. 20 years ago, they piloted the Transition Academy for 8th graders. I mean, it was a disaster, I'm not saying implement that again, but so many of you brought up the Mississippi Miracle, but didn't bring up the fact that retention was a major part of that plan, as was ability grouping, which is a political is a mess. I'm glad I'm not running because I wouldn't want to get into that. So I'm curious how many of you would support creating a policy to retain students who are failing, and if so, at what grade level would you do it?
100%.
Can I move this one? No, I got my, maybe that's, when you get on the board, you give it your all. Yes, right, but I think we're looking at this the wrong way. Right? We're looking at this kid, we're like, you are a failure, child. That's what we're saying. But we're not looking at ourselves. Right? The biggest problem we have is that we trust a test over a teacher. That's our biggest problem. You're giving me all these numbers, give me a name. Exactly, you can't. That's the problem. But my teacher, hold on, my teacher can. My teacher can give me a name of that kid who can't read. You know how I know? Because I was that teacher. I knew the kid who couldn't read. And guess what I did? I stopped everything and taught them to read. And I didn't give a damn about the test. Right? You want to fire me, County? Go ahead, fire me. But you know what? That kid's going to read, that kid's going to succeed, and that kid's not going to go and sit in the jail on Memorial Drive. That's what we're talking about. We would rather trust all of this other stuff than the people who actually we train to do the work.
Right. I like tests.
That's
just the bottom line. The Mississippi Miracle happens because they decided to trust the people that they did. Don't get me wrong, there are some people that need to go. Okay, there are bad teachers. I'm not gonna say that there aren't. There are, right? And those are the people that we have to encourage to go and work for Carl. Go make money.
That's frankly, and I'll be very brief. That's the hardest part of it. What they did in Mississippi. That was.
I'd like to speak to what I was called out.
I would say, to answer your question, 3rd grade.
3rd grade, that's when Mississippi.
3rd grade.
Actually lived in Mississippi for a year and a half, and it's right when they started the 3rd grade
That's when
reading
they
game is what they called it.
But what?
Yeah.
I'm
So sorry, you guys, I'm just gonna interrupt. We actually have 2 more questions, which means we got 5 minutes. I think, so if I was listening correctly, you were asking how many people would actually support retention?
Yes.
Can we just do a quick show of hands? Okay.
And 3rd grade, I think.
3rd grade is where you would start.
If you're gonna flip it to
Because on the flip side, what's worse, hold them back or keep passing them on and they don't have the basic.
Correct.
And then they end up
Correct.
right in jail.
But to throw this in very
And
quickly,
what happened in the Mississippi miracle, so to speak, the projection about how many would be held back was way overboard.
Yeah.
It's small, it ended up being a very small percentage being held back. So again, because the kid and everybody understood that there was consequences to not learning to read. But right now, we just pass them on. That, to me, that's sin.
And the longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes.
very, very quickly, 2 points on this. That was one of the problems of the state of Georgia's implementation of this, is that you didn't have that component. They are addressing that, and it's gotten better. But the other thing about this is, if you're going to do that, you've got to have clear protocols in place about, okay, you had an issue this last year. You can't just do the same thing again.
Yeah.
What are you going to do in terms of
Insanity.
getting resources to that particular student so they can not only get to where they should be, but they've now got to catch up?
It's not just telling them that they're failing, it's telling them that they're gonna repeat a grade and give them the support that they need within that time frame to get them. That's why it's called a reading gate. You don't go through the gate until you are prepared to go through the gate.
Until them we failed them.
Yeah.
That's the part that, what gets me and believe me, this time of year, as the test scores are coming out and we're taking our tests, we teachers, believe me, we wonder, is that student, like, what's best for the student? What's best for all of us? What's best for the kids that will be dealing with that student when they come up? Like, I teach 8th grade. If we retain 3 or 5 or 30 of our 8th graders who are failing perhaps, the 7th graders coming up, we now have plus 30 in that grade level. And Lily's completely right. It's a money thing. And so the better that we can articulate, the reason I didn't raise my hand to the simply put question of, would you support retention? I don't view it as a simple issue. I don't think any of us do, but the nuance, the devil's in the details, right? If we just say, if you don't get this, if you don't get a 70% on this, you're back here next year, bub. What happens when half the grade level fails? And we didn't budget for that for this next year. So I support the intent, absolutely. But where the rubber meets the road is, how much more are we willing to pay in taxes to cover that? How much more are we willing to lobby our state legislators and the federal government to give us money to make up that difference? I'm with you 100%, but when we all start saying, if it's going to double my property tax, no, make it cheaper than that. If we're going to give the interventions to these kids to get them where they need to be so that we're not failing them, I hesitate to say yes, 3rd grade or 5th grade or 8th grade, whatever. I just think a lot more conversation needs to happen like this with systems where it's working, with our superintendent, with our teachers, with our principals, to take all their perspectives into account, because heaven help us if the 9 people that y'all elect for the school board are the ones making the final call on this. It shouldn't be in a vacuum. It should be all the stakeholders, y'all included. It's not a simple answer, right? There's so much writing on this that I couldn't do a quick yes to it.
All right, we're gonna go to the next question, so we can make sure we have time.
Hey y'all. So I heard something that horrified me a little bit, and this is mostly kind of a clarification, give you more information question. I heard the word control, that there was a school that in the mentorship program maybe, there was a control school, and compared to
There's always a control school when you're doing an empirical scientific experiment.
So I guess my question is this clarified for me, in the district, is there a school that is intentionally not given a mentorship
No, this is
program?
all related to the
This is Books for
program.
Keeps.
Yes, this is all related to
Storytellers, which has a
nonprofit.
partnership with the school district to go in and mentor. And so in order to, Grace Bagwell Adams would be the better person to ask, because she's the one who runs all the data for it at the education college. But the control school is just, there has to be a school that doesn't get the mentor, otherwise you don't know if the mentor program is working.
And to
But
clarify,
as
the
this
mentor
rotate, are we picking one school that's not getting the mentor?
We are not, this is Books for Keeps.
Yeah,
It is not
sorry.
County, Books for Keeps. And so Books for Keeps is running this program, and the only way you can't test data if you don't have a control group. It's just impossible. And so, this is something that is...
I can jump in on this too. I'm a 4-year literacy mentor as well.
There you go.
So the control group was the second school that was selected. So they started with one school with the program, and the control group was the very next data set that was almost exactly similar. same school size, same demographics, same scores. And so it wasn't necessarily that we're looking to have a group that we're not giving stuff to. It's
You
just we
had
have
to
a
start
line of
that way.
schools that need it, and this is them in height order, essentially.
And
so
we're expanding to a third school in the fall. Like we started at Stroud, and then now we have Fowler, and we're adding a third that hasn't been announced
You have
yet.
to prove that it is
That it
building
works, correct.
before you can get into the
Correct.
schools.
Thank you, I just really needed the clarification.
Yeah,
That
no problem.
phrasing broke my brain for a second.
What it proves is that when you work with kids, it works.
It works,
Yeah.
exactly. When you read with kids, they learn how to read.
We spent $100 million.
And guess what it costs the school district?
Nothing.
Nothing. Zero.
I think, I want to hear what everyone feels about like technology in the classroom. It's just,
Oh, you know, I already said mine.
yeah, I just want a minute, because
Like a hand raise?
well, can everyone talk about it for a minute, or are people like not?
We've got one more question from a constituent,
Yes.
and then if we have
Yes,
some time
next
to do
question.
that. One more question there?
Hey,
I recognize
I'm a little disbarred, but okay. So my question is, I keep hearing that the kids don't want to learn, they don't want to read. And I grew up in a school district straight out of Bethel Homes apartments. We have a program with UGA, with mentors, we have big sister programs, we have big brother programs. We have none of that. Our community has turned their backs on our children. Lake Park does not have a program where we used to be able to go and sit down and do homework, do work. So what can y'all do to give back to these kids who are struggling, who are not getting it at home because mom has to work 2 jobs because everybody wants to charge $2,000 for a 2-bedroom. So there are things that's happening in the community that our kids are coming to school and reflecting off of. So I just want to hear some thoughts about that, because I hear what we're not doing as teachers, and I hear what our kids are not doing. But what about y'all? What about the community? What about the people who are looking down on these kids? These 39, 40 kids that come in that haven't ate breakfast, that live from Monday through Friday because mom can't afford it and food stamps are cut off because she makes $2 or $3 more than what the income is asking.
Let's get it cut.
I spoke about this in a previous forum, but it's getting community members and getting these nonprofits that are willing to help in situations like this on board and truly engage, not just saying, oh, we're doing something with such and such or whatever. It's truly taking the time and personally, are you asking us personally if we've, I've never done it, but I've considered doing the Books for Keeps mentors. I think I talked to Jami about it, but those sorts of things. And I run the booster club at Clarke Central for the track team, and I make sure that the kids have sandwiches when they go out to meets, and that they, as a booster, and then we provide that through the booster club. And it's just, it takes community members like that and the involvement and the engagement of community members like that. We have to lure those either nonprofits or just individuals in, and like we say, it's a village and all those sorts of things.
I heard Dr. Hooker say many times when he spoke to various groups that I'm a part of, I gotta have the time. I gotta have the time. And not to speak for everybody else up here on the stage, but I think all of us recognize to some degree or another, and I think it's a lot with all of us, that it's the individuals. It's not, yeah, you can throw all the money in the world at something, but if that's just another computer, if that's another book, if that's some new fix it fast thing that is going to handle all this in the next 6 months, it's not going to work. It's going to take individuals that are going in there, and I really don't care who they are. UGA students, someone who's retired, someone who's got an hour, and they just want to go make a huge impact on a kid's life. It's going to take those people going into the schools and in some way, shape, or form having an impact on that child. And what's so sad about the whole thing is it doesn't take much. It's the smallest things that will transform that child's life.
Again, I mentioned collaboration and working with people. And if I'm on the board, if I'm not on the board, I want to be still doing that. But if I'm on the board, I want to push strongly for us to reconnect and bring those resources back into the community and to grassroots level to work with our kids. I started out by saying this is a great community. There's a lot of great resources around, pound for pound, population for population. There are a lot of folks, but we're not reaching out to them and getting them to get involved. So I'm going to push to bring that back.
But you have to meet people where they are. So we always expect parents to come to the school, but sometimes the school needs to go to the parent. We need to be in the communities. I served on the Feed My Sheep board. It kind of dissolved in the pandemic with Reverend Ellison and Roger Flanagan and Mary Bagby, and we would do tutoring. I would go over, to Nellie B, and we'd sit in the resource center and do tutoring, and the kids would come in to get that help. But we need more of that. It has to be targeted because people take it for granted that, oh, well, the kid could just go to the library. I actually took the time to explain to someone how long it would take to ride a bus from Cedar Shoals to get to this library. And they'd have about 30 minutes before they had to get back home to get the last bus, and they wouldn't even get home till almost 9:30 at night. So it's this lack of understanding of what it takes to get to the children and give them the resources they need. And parents need help too. They don't know what they don't know. They can't participate if they don't know they're being given the opportunity. And we can't just say, well, we're gonna have a meeting at 5 o'clock on Tuesday. Well, that doesn't work. Or, have it more accessible, but that is what we can do with community and collaboration and communication, is make it more accessible and take it into the neighborhoods.
Now, I know you're gonna be mad at me, Irami, but it's 8 o'clock. We need to wrap this up.
One other thing, Jami, before we go, I heard,
We're gonna have to go over, see my timer's gonna go on.
Mr. Blunt said, I heard Dr. Hooker speak at the town hall meeting at Clark Center and Cedar Shoals, and one of the things that he said was they was building the prison system based on our third grade.
Exactly, which is why you
as a board, how are we going to counteract that as a community? What are we going to do to stop that? Because that's the really important thing that I want from the board members is how are we going to put our kids up for success?
Well, I'm going to cut you off, Mr. Elder. I'm going to cut you off, Mr. Elder, because it is 8 o'clock. We got to get out of this room. But what I will say is that the Family Advisory Board is an incredible opportunity to do just that kind of thing. So I want to make sure everybody knows that these kinds of conversations are the conversations that we have in Family Advisory Board. It's where we distill a lot of that information that we then take to the superintendent that influences change on a systemic level. Thank you guys so much for coming tonight.
Thank you, Jami.
I appreciate you guys coming here.
We're gonna get this out of this room at 8, but the library closes at 9, and so we can be outside of that room and continue having conversations and discussions if you want to be sitting.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. I appreciate it so much. Good night.